Oklahoma, July 16, 1945. The heat shimmered over Camp Gruber like liquid glass. Private Daniel McCarthy walked the perimeter of the women's compound, sweat soaking through his uniform. Then he heard it a gasp, sharp and desperate. The dull thud of a body hitting packed earth. He turned. A woman lay collapsed against the barracks wall, one hand clutching her swollen belly, the other pressed against weathered wood. 7 months pregnant, German, a prisoner of war. His orders had been explicit: maintain distance. No direct contact. Report incidents through proper channels. McCarthy stood frozen for 3 seconds that stretched into eternity. Then he took 3 steps toward her. Those 3 steps would cost him everything. Before we continue, if you're finding this story as gripping as we hope, hit that like button and subscribe to stay with us through history's most powerful, untold moments. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community around the world. Your support helps us keep bringing these stories to life. McCarthy knelt beside the woman. Her face was pale, slicked with sweat. Blood stained her dress. Not much, but enough. Her eyes met his, filled with terror and pain and something else. Recognition that he had just violated every regulation in the book. Recognition that he might be her only chance. In that moment, McCarthy realized something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Sometimes saving a life means destroying your career. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking every rule you've sworn to uphold. And sometimes the enemy isn't who you thought it was. Camp Gruber sprawled across 50,000 acres of Oklahoma prairie. Established in 1942 as a training facility for infantry divisions, by summer 1945 it had transformed. The war in Europe had ended. The Pacific campaign ground toward its uncertain conclusion. Thousands of German soldiers now occupied the camp prisoners captured during the Reich's final collapse. The women's section occupied the northeastern corner, smaller than the main POW facilities, separated by double fencing and guard towers that maintained sight lines across both sections. 73 German women were held there by July 1945, auxiliaries captured during the Allied advance. Clerks, radio operators, nurses who had served in support roles. The heat that month was relentless. Oklahoma's sun beating down on tar paper barracks that trapped warmth like ovens. The women worked morning's laundry details for the camp vegetable gardens that supplemented mess hall supplies. Afternoons, when temperatures climbed above 100 degrees, work ceased. They retreated to barracks that offered shade but little relief. Water ran lukewarm from spigots no matter how long you let them flow. Fans circulated air that felt like breathing through wet wool. Among the 73 prisoners, 4 were pregnant. Their conditions varied, one barely showing, another due within weeks. The Army had developed protocols hastily as the complexities of female prisoners became apparent. Pregnant POWs received modified work assignments, additional rations, access to camp medical facilities. They would give birth under American supervision. Their children would be documented, processed, eventually repatriated when Germany was ready to receive them back. The regulations said nothing about what happened after repatriation, about what kind of Germany these women would return to, what prospects existed for mothers raising children in occupied territory, where food was scarce and futures uncertain. Private Daniel McCarthy had been assigned to Camp Gruber in April, transferred, from a training company after failing physical requirements for overseas deployment. Childhood asthma, exacerbated by stress and exercise. The Army decided he could serve stateside, guarding prisoners who no longer posed any real threat. He was 22 years old. From a small Pennsylvania town where his father ran a hardware store and his mother taught Sunday school, he had expected to fight. Instead, he walked perimeters and filed reports, tried to reconcile his image of soldiers with the reality of guarding women who looked tired, defeated, and occasionally pregnant. The pregnant ones troubled him most. Elsa Hoffman was 26 years old and 7 months pregnant. She had served as a clerk in a Wehrmacht logistics unit, captured near Aachen as the Western Front collapsed. Her husband had died at Stalingrad 3 years earlier. The child she carried wasn't his. She didn't speak about the father. The other women knew better than ask. Some pregnancies had simple explanations. Husbands seen briefly during leave, relationships formed before deployment. Others had explanations harder to voice. Circumstances existing in gray spaces between choice and force. Elsa kept to herself, did her assigned work quietly, competently, ate meals alone. At night in the barracks, where 12 women shared close quarters, she would place her hand on her belly, feel the baby move. Her expression suggested she was trying to decide whether to love or resent the life growing inside her. The women watched over Elsa. Maria, once a nurse, monitored her health. Anna slipped her extra food. Greta, 3 months pregnant, offered quiet companionship. On July 16th, Elsa woke feeling wrong pressure, a shift inside her body. She reported to garden duty anyway, harvesting tomatoes in shimmering heat, moving slowly with one hand on her back. By noon, pressure turned to pain. She reached the barracks just before the first contraction, 7 weeks too early. Maria found her gasping on her bunk. "We need the medical officer," she said. "No," Elsa whispered. "It will pass," but Maria knew it wouldn't and went for help. Protocol said guards must keep distance, report through command, wait for the camp physician, follow Geneva rules. No direct aid. McCarthy was on perimeter duty when Maria called, "Please help, woman sick." "Baby coming." He reached for his radio, then heard the scream. Raw, immediate, he ran. The unlocked barracks door swung open to heat, fear, and 12 cramped bunks. Elsa lay on the floor, hands clutching her belly, blood staining her dress. Maria tried to calm her. McCarthy froze. Training said report. Instinct said act. He chose instinct. "We need the infirmary," he said. Maria shook her head. Too far. "Baby coming now." McCarthy's medical training consisted of basic first aid and 1 lecture on battlefield triage. He knew nothing about childbirth beyond theoretical understanding that it happened and sometimes went wrong. But he knew regulations didn't account for 7-month pregnancies, hemorrhaging on barracks floors. That procedure wouldn't save this woman or her baby. That sometimes you had to choose between rules and lives. He pulled off his jacket, folded it into a cushion for Elsa's head. Then he turned to Maria. "Tell me what you need." Maria's relief was visible. Clean towels. Boiled water if possible. Scissors, string, alcohol, and someone who knows birthing. McCarthy sprinted outside, yelling for the guard in the next sector. Private Wilson appeared, rifle ready, expecting trouble. "Medical emergency," McCarthy said. "I need you to get the camp physician. Now. Tell him premature labor, heavy bleeding, patient critical." Wilson hesitated. "Shouldn't we follow protocol?" Report through channels? There is no time for channels. Get the doctor or this woman dies on our watch. Wilson ran. McCarthy returned to the barracks where Anna and Greta had joined Maria, creating a screen of bodies between Elsa and the door, offering what privacy was possible in impossible circumstances. Elsa's contractions were coming fast. Too fast. Her water hadn't broken properly. The blood continued seeping. Maria examined Elsa quickly, worry tightening her face. "Baby is breech," she said in mixed German and English. "Wrong position. Cannot come natural." McCarthy felt ice settle in his gut. "Can you turn it?" Maria tried. Elsa screamed, the sound ripping from her chest. Too tight, too scared. Baby stuck. Captain Morrison, the camp physician, arrived 20 minutes later, an aging Nebraska doctor with little obstetric experience. He assessed the scene instantly. Breech. Premature labor. Hemorrhaging. She needs surgery. "We don't have facilities," McCarthy said. "She'll bleed out before we reach Muskogee," Morrison replied, kneeling beside Elsa. "I'm going to try to turn the baby. It will hurt." "Do you understand?" Elsa nodded. The next 15 minutes felt endless. Morrison worked with deliberate pressure, trying to rotate the child. Elsa screamed, fainted, revived. The women held her hands, whispering German encouragement, forming a fragile circle of solidarity. Finally, the baby shifted. Elsa gasped as contractions surged. "This is happening," Morrison said. "Maria, assist." McCarthy guarded the door. An hour later, the child arrived at 1437 on July 16, 1945. A tiny girl, barely 4 pounds red, wrinkled, crying but alive. Morrison cleared her airways and wrapped her before placing her in Elsa's trembling arms. Elsa stared at her daughter, tears falling something between wonder and the first spark of love. "We need to transport them both to Muskogee," Morrison said. "Mother's stable enough now, but that baby needs facilities we don't have. Incubation, monitoring, proper medical care." McCarthy nodded. "I'll arrange it." Morrison looked at him seriously. "You violated about 15 regulations today, Private. You understand that?" "Yes, sir. You also probably saved 2 lives. Sometimes those things go together." After Morrison left, McCarthy lingered in the doorway. Elsa was still holding her daughter, whispering to her in German. The other women had gathered around, offering quiet support of those who understood that life was complicated and children were innocent regardless of how they came to be. Greta approached McCarthy. "Thank you," she said in careful English. "You help when you're not have to." "You good man." McCarthy felt uncomfortable with the praise. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Greta said firmly. "You did what good men do. Many men follow orders. You follow something else." The report reached his commanding officer by nightfall. Captain James Henderson called McCarthy to his office at 21 o'clock hours. The conversation was terse and pointed. "Private McCarthy, you entered a prisoner barracks without authorization." "Yes, sir." "Medical emergency, sir." "You provided direct assistance to a prisoner without going through proper channels." "The proper channels would have resulted in 2 deaths, sir." "That's not your assessment to make. You're not a medical officer. You're a guard. I'm a human being, sir. I heard someone dying and responded." Henderson was quiet for a long moment. "The regulations exist for reasons. Private. Security, liability, maintaining proper distance between guards and prisoners. You violated all of those." "I understand, sir. Do you?" "Because from where I'm sitting, you created a situation where this camp could be held liable, where you put yourself at risk, where you overstepped your authority in ways that could have gone catastrophically wrong. But they didn't go wrong, sir. They went right. Henderson pulled out a sheet of paper. Read from it. Captain Morrison's report states that your immediate response likely prevented prisoner death, that your violation of protocol, while technically inappropriate, resulted in life preservation. He's recommending no disciplinary action. McCarthy waited. I'm inclined to agree with his recommendation. Henderson set down the paper. But understand something, Private. You gambled. You bet that breaking rules would turn out better than following them. This time you were right. Next time you might not be. And next time I might not be able to protect you from the consequences. There won't be a next time, sir. Henderson didn't believe him. You're dismissed. Elsa and her newborn, Clara named after Elsa's mother, remained in Muskogee Hospital for 3 weeks. The baby gained weight slowly, struggled to breathe, and needed constant monitoring. Elsa recovered after severe hemorrhaging and transfusions. McCarthy visited once during a supply run, violating regulations but needing to know they were all right. He found Elsa in a ward with 3 other mothers, Clara in an incubator beside her. The baby looked stronger, though still tiny. Elsa smiled, tentative but genuine, and motioned for him to sit. They spoke little, but her hand briefly covering his said everything. She will live, Elsa managed in English. Because you help. McCarthy looked at the fragile infant born under impossible circumstances, German prisoner mother, unnamed father, an American doctor delivering her with an untrained guard assisting. She's strong, he said, like her mother. No, she is lucky. You choose right thing. In August, an inquiry reviewed McCarthy's actions. He testified simply. A woman was dying. Protocols were too slow. The findings were mixed, technically violations, practically necessary. No punishment followed. In September, Elsa and Clara returned to Camp Gruber. Repatriation loomed. In October, McCarthy broke protocol again, gathering supplies, baby clothes, canned milk, a blanket from home for Elsa's uncertain future. He passed these items through Maria, who acted as intermediary. Regulations prohibited guards from giving gifts to prisoners, but the regulations hadn't anticipated situations like this. Elsa accepted the items with quiet gratitude. She also gave McCarthy something in return, a letter written in careful English, sealed in an envelope addressed to his home in Pennsylvania. Give to your mother, she said. Tell her thank you for raising son who choose right thing. November 5th, 10th arrived cold and gray. Oklahoma autumn settling into winter's promise. The German women gathered in the compound central yard, each with 1 bag of permitted possessions, preparing for transport to ships that would carry them back to Germany. Elsa held Clara, wrapped in the blanket McCarthy's mother had sent. The baby was 4 months old now, healthy and alert, unaware her life was about to undergo another upheaval. McCarthy was assigned to perimeter duty during the loading. He watched from distance as the women filed onto trucks. 73 former enemies returning to defeated homeland. Their futures uncertain, but at least alive to face them. Elsa saw him before boarding. She walked over to the fence that separated guard post from compound, Clara in her arms. McCarthy moved closer. They looked at each other across the wire, across the gap between occupier and occupied, guard and prisoner, American and German. Clara made a small sound, not quite a word, just the vocalization of an infant discovering her voice. Thank you. Elsa said. "For everything. For choosing to help when you could choose not to." "Take care of her," McCarthy replied. "Take care of Clara. I will. Always." She touched her fingers to the fence. McCarthy touched his to the same spot, separated by wire and regulation and circumstance. Then Elsa turned and boarded the truck. McCarthy watched until the convoy disappeared into distance, carrying German prisoners home to whatever Germany was becoming. He thought about Clara, about the life she would live in a country McCarthy had never seen. Shaped by circumstances beyond anyone's control, he hoped it would be a good life, or at least a life which was more than she would have had if he had followed regulations. 5 years later, in 1950, McCarthy received a letter. It came through Military Veterans Association channels, forwarded multiple times, the envelope worn from journey. Inside, written in English that had improved dramatically, "Dear Private McCarthy, I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing to tell you that Clara is 5 years old now. She is healthy, happy, starting school. We live in Hamburg, in a city that is rebuilding. Life is hard, but getting better. I work as a translator for the Occupation Authority. Clara asks questions about her birth, about America, about the soldier who helped bring her into the world. Someday I will tell her the full story. For now I tell her that there are good people everywhere, even in times of war, even across lines that seem impossible to cross. Thank you for being one of those good people. With gratitude always, Elsa Hoffman." McCarthy kept the letter, wrote back through the same channels, a brief note expressing relief they were well, hoping Germany's reconstruction would bring stability and peace. More letters followed over the years. In 1965, Clara herself wrote to McCarthy. She was 20 years old, studying medicine at university in Heidelberg. "I am becoming a doctor," she wrote, "because you showed my mother that helping others matters more than following rules. Thank you for giving me the chance to live, to grow up, to hopefully help others the way you helped us." Daniel McCarthy lived until 1992, dying at 69 from heart failure. Among his possessions, a box of letters from Germany, photographs of a woman and child he had met for one desperate hour in 1945, documentation of a life he had helped save by breaking rules. His obituary never mentioned the incident. He never sought recognition, rarely spoke of it, and treated it as a simple choice made in a moment too urgent for hesitation. Clara Hoffman became a leading German obstetrician, delivering thousands of babies while remembering her own birth and emergency delivery in a POW camp. In 1998, she traveled to Pennsylvania, found McCarthy's grave, and left flowers. A German doctor honoring an American guard who had been 22 when he chose humanity over protocol. The story lived on in both families, passed through generations. Historians later examined the event as a case study in the limits of military regulations, rules meant for order. Not every emergency where immediate action mattered more than procedure. McCarthy's breach became a lesson in ethics. When do orders cease to serve their purpose? When must conscience override command? He would have laughed at the idea. He had simply heard someone dying and couldn't walk away. Clara died in 2018 at 73. Her obituary noted she had survived a perilous birth in an American POW camp and devoted her life to helping women survive theirs. In her papers, her children found decades of letters from McCarthy and a photo of the young soldier who never knew he'd be remembered. A note in her handwriting read, "I lived because one person chose kindness over rules. Every baby I delivered honored the guard who saved me. Camp Gruber is gone, but the story endures one choice, one act of decency, rippling across generations.